But Sevilla get a big win here over the La Liga champions. Let's get some post-match reaction. Here's Hansi Flick.
Do you feel like you have to change something about the system or the structure?
No, I don't. I don't think it's about the system and the structure. It's you know, we make in the first half we make some big mistakes. But at the end it's like that, like we always play. So. For me, it's not. We can speak about a lot of things today, but I think we have to see our performance in the first half was not good. Second half was much better. I think also we have the chance to score the second goal, of course, and then maybe the game totally changed. But this is the past.
Well, let's have a look at the top half of the La Liga standings. Barcelona, they will stay in second. They blow a chance to go back to the top of the table before the international break. 3 points now behind their fierce rivals, Real Madrid. Let's welcome in a former Barca man himself, Luis Garcia. But Craig, I want to start with you on this one. Of course, we were watching it closely as well earlier today. Players like Frankie de Jong blamed fatigue. Balde talked about the weather. Do you see any of that? The weather, because it was a heat wave. It was a heat wave and an earlier kickoff.
And Sevilla, they were not impacted by
you could say they're used
the weather.
They're used to playing. It's their home. But is it just as simple as once again that high line let them down?
It's not just the high line, it's every facet of the team today. For me, the worst performance since Hansi Flick took over by a stretch. Now, he said they got better in the second half. He made 2 changes. Balde came on for Gerard Martin and Rojo got subbed off for Eric Garcia. And they did get better, but they were woefully bad in the first half. Woefully bad. We saw the highlight there. It could have been 4. Could easily have been 4-0 at half-time, and by the end of the game, it could have been 7 or 8. Even though they had 1 or 2 chances themselves, Barcelona, from difficult angles, they missed a penalty, but Sevilla could have scored 7 or 8. But when you don't press from the front, and you don't press then from the midfield, and everybody's playing as individuals, then the back line gets even more exposed. And it was exposed dreadfully today. Absolutely dreadfully. Every time, whether it was a deep runner from midfield, or whether it was a runner from wide positions getting in, time and time again, they broke this defensive line. This has been coming all this season. Yeah, it happened last year, but they had success domestically. But this result has been coming this year because we've witnessed this back four consistently, changing every week, different centre-halves, different full-backs, different partnerships, and teams have created lots of chances and lots of space in behind. Now, they've outscored the bulk of their opponents and they've got away with it. They did not get away with it today. And I think when Hansi Flick sits down and reflects, he won't reflect on a better second half. He'll look at individuals and say, did you do enough? Did you press hard enough? Did you work hard enough? Did you close the ball down? Did you protect the back four? And the answer was a simple no. It was nothing to do with fatigue. It was nothing to do with the heat. It was just a disjointed, very, very poor Barca performance, and the back line got exposed because of that. When you expose a back line that's been performing the way they have been performing this year, this is what happens. And Hansi Flick is lucky he's not sitting in that press conference, or he wasn't sat in that press conference, and he wasn't talking about an absolute drubbing, because it could have been that today.
Yeah, Luis, as Craig said, it probably could have been worse. And what he said, too, is that we all saw this coming. It's something that we've been talking about a lot about Barcelona, that eventually other teams will find them out. So why do you feel Hansi Flick hasn't found a way to stop it?
Because it's not about how to stop it. It's about what the players can do to address the situation. The system is not going to change. The structure is not going to change. The idea of playing with a high line and a high pressure is not going to change. It's if I cannot press, I'm going to be ready to run back. And that's something that is not happening. We've seen in today's game the fullbacks. I've been talking a lot about the fullbacks today. The situation that we've seen so far in this game 3, 4, 5 times, because Hansi Flick mentioned that we play better in the second half. It's true. We had the opportunity, if we scored the second one, and the change would have been different. Yes, but in the first 45, you could have conceded maybe 3 or 4 goals and there were no game at all. So I think that this is a video that is going to be easy to understand, it's going to be easy to show, and hopefully we can see some changes in the future. Not on the system, but yes, on the way of reading the game. If I see the player is already looking at me, there is no time to pressure, it's time to run it back.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, if there's the lack of pressure on the ball that they had today, you have to drop off. You just have to. Otherwise, well, you don't have to, but this is what happens. This is what happens. If you then have no pressure and you still try to come out, and teams are clever about it, and it's a good ball and it's a good timed run, then you're going to get in for fun. And we've discussed this time and time again. Teams, when they get this wrong, teams are going to get in for fun. But the bigger story here is we've all said it, it's been coming. I liken this to Liverpool, who have just hit the buffers in the Premier League and the Champions League as well, got beaten at Galatasaray. It's been coming for them because they were making mistake after mistake after mistake, and again, it was the back line for the most part. Barcelona, very similar, getting results, but this has been coming. Mark my words, and Hansi Flick will have known this is coming. And as Luis said, the video analysis for this, I think, is going to be very easy. This is not about Lamine Yamal not being there. This is not about a superstar not being there. This is about a team who did not play as a team today.
Listen, the thing is for me, right, if I'm being very kind to Barcelona, the first 2 goals come off of individual errors. Araujo with a ridiculous foul. Koundé loses the ball. Even you could tag in Lewandowski with the missed penalty. Maybe we're having a different conversation if it goes to 2-2. Bargi with 1 missed golden opportunity, 1 half chance, again to make it 2-2, and maybe we're having a different conversation. But we've seen this coming not just this season, but last. Teams figuring out how to expose that high line of Barcelona to the point where, as you mentioned, Alexis, there was a heat wave in Seville, so there were scheduled water breaks. During one of those water breaks, you could hear Almeida, the Sevilla coach, saying, "We worked on this all week. Ball into the front man, little ball back, third man running." Everybody knows how Barcelona are going to play and how to expose that high line. Now it's up to Hansi Flick to now figure out, now that this is how teams are going to play against us, how do we defend against that? Because we're seeing it time and time again. We saw it for the back end of last season. We're seeing it now again. And you can't just rely on outscoring the opponent. You can't say, well, if you score 2 or 3, we're going to score 4 or 5 because we have the firepower. You've got to get that part of your game right. And that's the one thing I believe that Hansi Flick needs to focus on in terms of how they're defending, how they're protecting that high back line, if that's what he's sticking with, because teams are prepared to take their chances.
It's interesting that last year he did not fancy Ronald Araujo as a defender, and we've seen Araujo have good periods at Barcelona over the probably a good 2 or 3 years ago now, when he both played centre half and right back and snuffed out Vinicius Junior in Clásicos. So he can defend, but that's kind of one-on-one defending where he's big and he's strong and he's quick. This type of defending is different. The Hansi Flick type of defending is different. This is more about organising the back line, it's more about squeezing as a unit, and it's more about communication. It's less about going up one-on-one against a player. It's more about the back four squeezing as a unit at the right time. And that takes the back four to be cohesive, and that takes a leader. And I think it was quite clear last year in the team selections that Ronald Araujo didn't play a lot because he did not trust him to be able to manage that back line as the most experienced player, along with Jules Koundé, who's in the right back position. Martinez did that last year. It was a big shock to Hansi Flick. In the summer, he wanted to go to Saudi Arabia, so he lost him. He was the organiser. But it was stunning today that he took off Gerard Martin, which wasn't a surprise, but he took off Araujo at half-time. And I think that was very telling.
Yes.
That going forward, he has no trust in the big centre-half to manage and organise and sort of cajole this back four into working as a unit. So I don't know how that individual is going to be. I don't know. Whether that means moving Jules Koundé into centre-half, whether it's Eric Garcia. All players, Garcia and players like that, you consider him a squad player. And all of a sudden, these guys might have to come in and marshal this back four. So he's got a lot of thinking to do, Hansi Flick. And I think I've rarely seen a first half where two of the best midfielders that play the game today, and Frankie de Jong and Pedri, could barely get on the ball. And could barely get a tackle in. And that was a big surprise to me, because I expected, even though it was warm and it was away from home, I expected Barca to dominate that game today. And to be honest with you, they barely laid a foot on Sevilla in that first 45 minutes. I mean, the Rashford chance before he scored, yeah, that was a straight ball, wasn't great defending. And then the Rashford goal comes about because, Sevilla are taking too much time in the ball on the edge of the box, waiting for the referee to blow his whistle. They cough it up, Pedri puts a great ball in, and all of a sudden the game has changed at 2-1. So, from Barca's perspective, I know Shaq was trying to be positive about it, about the ifs, buts and the maybes. But the if, buts and the maybes for Sevilla were, if we'd have finished those chances, this game would have been dead and buried at half-time.
Luis, to Craig's point about that backline just needing that bit of extra leadership, if it's not going to come from Jules Koundé, if it's not going to come from Araujo, who else could it come from?
Yeah, because Barcelona means Íñigo Martínez from last year, that I think he was the perfect leader in the back line. He was strong, he was vocal. I think it's very important. Communication in the back line is very important. We cannot expect yet that on Cubarsí, because he's young, because he still needs to make a lot of mistakes to become the centre-back that we all expect that he will become in the near future. Eric Garcia has done a good job. I think he came on in the second half because his ability to bring the ball from the back, his fantastic passes through the line to try to break that first line of defensive from Sevilla. They were marking very well man-to-man to Frankie de Jong and Pedri. So in the end, there is needed someone who can bring that leadership. And leadership doesn't come from, I understand what Craig is mentioning, from a big lad who can be strong and powerful and showing. It's about what he can give, how much confidence he can give to other players. And so far in the past few months, we've seen Araujo making some mistakes in the timing, in the aggressiveness into the box, in the coming back. Let's not forget last year in Champions League. So those kind of mistakes doesn't give confidence to the rest of the players, and then the leadership goes on the other side. So I expect Araujo to be a leader as a captain for the club. But I think at the back, what you need is someone who can be secure, who can give confidence to the back line and to the keeper. And those are the kind of leader that you need to at the back. Players who can be reliable when it's needed. And today, Araujo, sometimes he looks vulnerable at the back.
Diego Simeone had to move someone out of the way to get straight into the tunnel. He says, I don't want to see this anymore. Atleti now having to split the points with Celta. Luis Garcia, you know I'm going to come to you first. Like I said, your other team in action. We were talking about this game in the pre-show. Craig hinted that this could be a banana peel for Atletico de Madrid after 3 big wins on the trot. And it was.
Yes, it was. And it started very well for Atletico Madrid. That first goal showed that Atletico Madrid was going to go for it. But once again, we saw Atletico Madrid that in the moment that they score a goal, they start going back a little bit, giving too much space and time for Celta Vigo. That actually did a fantastic game. We've been talking also about that. Celta Vigo doesn't have the points that their performances are showing. A very well-structured, very well-drilled team. That managed to get in the second half that equalizer, and they could have even scored another goal to win the game. And everything started from that Lenglet silly fall. I think it was a very, very dumb situation. That one, they're just holding one of the players on the wide area, far away from the goal and without purpose. And conceding that red card. And then Atletico Madrid had to drop back. Simeone started making changes, trying to understand that the team was going to be fixed. And in the middle of the park back, we saw once again there was no reaction. I mentioned at halftime that maybe in one of the counter-attack transition of Atletico Madrid, we could have seen the second goal. But I forgot there's no more Correa at the front. So there is no more big runs and fast players up front. So we saw a decent performance from Atletico Madrid. They hold back well. But at some point, even we saw them with one man down, controlling the ball and controlling the game, having the possession. But it was all about waiting for the moment that Celta Vigo figured it out and scored that first goal. So a good point for Atletico Madrid playing away after 3 big wins. But I think they could have done better with Lenglet having been sent off.
Yeah, Longley probably won't be the favourite person in the dressing room right now, Craig.
I think that's where Simeone was running to, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, he had to move people out the way.
Well, they took the lead early. They should have been behind early with that Borja Iglesias header that he tried to sort of lay off, which was sort of bonkers because that's his bread and butter, and he's been on a great goal-scoring run. I think 6 straight games. So they should have been behind. They were not. Then they had a pretty great play to get Barrios in. They take the lead, and then I think they were a little bit of a hybrid. They didn't know where to go for the second or sit back and try and control the game. And in the end, they sort of did neither. And of course, 2 really bad decisions from an experienced player in Longley. I mean, he's been there, he's seen it, and he's played at the highest level in several countries. And yet, you know, we've all sort of done it. But to make 2 decisions within what, 15 minutes of each one, or maybe not even that. You know, one rash challenge and then one tug back of the shirt, which is an automatic yellow, is just crazy. And that put Atleti into proper Atleti mode, where, you know, for most of the second half they were just sat in the outside of the box. So it's a shame from their perspective because they had got a bit of momentum. But when you make bad decisions like Longley did, then you put your team under pressure.
All right, well, Luis Garcia, you are not only our best dressed analyst, but you're also one of our most hardworking. You've been here working for us since the Barcelona game to the Atleti game to the show. So we're going to finally let you go right now and enjoy the rest of what's left of Sunday in España. Because let's be honest, he has been the man for Manchester City, pretty much the only one, it seems to be finding the back of the net for them. Here's a look at the top half of the Premier League standings. Manchester City there in 5th, just 3 points off Arsenal, who are at the top. Well, speaking of Manchester City, let's welcome another best-dressed one of our pundits, Nedum Onuoha. Nedum,
hold on. What about Shaq and myself?
I said you guys are always best dressed too, but I have to, like, you know, they're not here every day. I said you're best dressed because we're kind of coordinating today.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I struck a nerve.
It's not Stevie that sat here.
Wow, Craig's feeling. He's in his feels today,
Let's
Nedum.
Move on.
All right, we've got
Look at
Craig
the
in his
effort that
feels.
man's made.
But Nedum, big win, I want to say, for Manchester City, but once again, it kind of just feels like Brentford 0, Erling Haaland 1.
Well, you could say that, but previously I think all the goals that City had scored at that stadium were scored by Phil Foden, so it was nice for him to be able to break that duck. But yeah, in terms of how the football's been this season, you know, Haaland has been the guy. You sort of wondered last season about some of his dips in form and so on, and quite a few people fancied him to not be top scorer this year, but now here he is scoring yet again. And what I love about this goal is that for all the finesse and stuff that he has with his movement and so on, where here's a straight ball from Josko Vardiol into space and Haaland absolutely bodying the defender, as you saw. And for him to be able to do that, to be engaged in that manner, it's not something that we see very often. But it's a big moment for him because it just shows that at times, like, he can use those physical attributes. Because for me personally, given the size, he's 6'4", you know, you're probably looking at 85, 90 kilos or something. He doesn't use his strength as much as I would expect him to. But when you can play balls like that and create and lead to goals like that as well, at times, you know, you can have all the finesse in the world, but sometimes that brute strength and a great finish is all you need.
Do you think, Nedum, there's a conscious effort here, or a conscious thought process from Man City to maybe play that ball a little bit more this season to Erling Haaland, a little bit quicker and over the top to allow him to use his physicality?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, perhaps there is, because this is similar to the goal that he scored in the week in the Champions League. Again, a Josko Vardiol ball over the top, and then it leads to a goal in itself, because at times, for the way that teams play against them, you know, there's a lot of times where they're focused on having to go and play the ball out wide because they're so tightly compacted in that middle area, and Haaland, as is the case with being number 9, playing against the likes of low blocks and so on, don't get a lot of touches, but every so often they will feed him that ball. And it's not like the ball in the midweek was better than essentially the ball today, because in fairness, Haaland had to do a lot of the work from this point. But when you've got somebody who's prepared to be on the right side of the play like that, to be able to have the space on that left side, to run into that space and to want to hold it up or to finish, it just adds that extra dimension to the club. And I think for me as well, the more you see Vardiol doing stuff like that, the more teams will want to drop off then. And as a consequence, maybe that suits more like someone like a Phil Foden getting into the 10 spot. And from there, you know how much ability he has in his feet. And he started really well again this season. So yes, I think they are making more of a conscious effort. But if teams are going to give him that, you know, do it at your own peril, as we saw with Van den Berg today, trying to wrestle with the big man himself.
No, you know, the one thing it would and a win's a win for City, you know, 3 points and all that sort of stuff. one of the things it's a little surprising is, and I'm going to use expected goals here, strangely enough, because I didn't actually see all this game because I was across the Barcelona game, is that for all the possession and all the play, their expected goals, if you want to use that as a sort of barometer, is pretty much the same as Brentford. And I would have expected, with that amount of ball, that they were a little bit more creative in front of goal. Looking at the stats, I can't tell you exactly because I didn't see the bulk of the game, but that would be the only thing I would say. But then the other side of it is, there's a clean sheet. I know Brentford are not the strongest team, but it's another clean sheet away from home, and it is 3 points, and Haaland keeps that going, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't seem to me that they created a ton of really, really good chances in the game.
To that point, you look at City's lineup and you wonder where the goals are going to come from. And really, it's 3 players: Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, who's only got two so far this season, and Reinders, who announced himself to wonderful effect on the opening day of the Premier League season, but has not found the back of the net again since. He had one effort today from about 25 yards, and in all honesty, he missed the goal by about 15 yards. Phil Foden had a couple of opportunities, difficult opportunities, but if we're talking about Phil Foden of 2 seasons ago, would have buried those quite easily. So as you look at City, and you saw this as the game went on, that Brentford dropped a little bit deeper, allowed City comfortable possession of the ball, as the stats showed, but City never really threatened because with Haaland kind of crowded out, with Brentford sitting that close to their own goal, they just don't have the support from midfield. And the wingers between Doku and Savinho, good wingers they are, but you don't fancy them to get an awful lot of goals during the course of the season. So as this game went on, it just had a kind of familiar, if not frustrating feel for Manchester City. And that was the thing for me. As much as we're talking about City and their frustrations, they're still only 3 points off the top. Still early in the season, I know. But as things get going, you just wonder where those other goals are going to come from. And that, for me, is Pep's big conundrum.
That's actually interesting. Quickly, just Natum, do you have any concerns there of the team becoming a little too reliant on Erling Haaland, even though he is on a hot streak?
I think an over-reliance might be a bit of a stretch in some aspects because, yes, he has scored the 9 goals, but the club have also scored 15. They are top scorers in the Premier League at this moment in time. So, yes, you would want the goals to be spread out elsewhere, but what does that mean? Should they be on like 20 goals at this point already with other people chipping in with 2, 3 and 4? I think in time, maybe that'll level itself out. The focus on him isn't necessarily going to be something that will remain throughout the season. I'm sure he'll get his numbers, he'll get his goals like he always does, but they'll find different ways to do it as well because every game of football is essentially quite different. But I think in some ways it's probably better to be able to celebrate the fact that their number 9 is scoring goals because up and down the land, I think there are plenty of number 9s who aren't doing that. And as a consequence, their teams are struggling. To mention, say, for example, Aston Villa with how Watkins started so slowly, United with the likes of Sesko starting slowly and so on. So, it's not the end of the world from Haaland to be scoring so many goals. And as long as they keep getting 3 points on the board for now, I suppose the manager will be quite happy.
The world champions Chelsea, they won 2-1 over Liverpool at Stamford Bridge. It was a late show, but for the Blues this time. And Arne Slot has a lot to think about after Liverpool now suffering a string of losses. Craig, where do you want to start with this one? What Chelsea did right to win or why Liverpool once again lost?
Well, we can get to Liverpool, because that is a big story. But I thought Chelsea were, bearing in mind they've got a bunch of injuries as well, and the back line was decimated. The way they pressed Liverpool yesterday was so impressive. The way they passed it and they were composed in their passing. The way they got at that Liverpool back line, just never gave them any time on the ball. They were very assured at the back as well. I just thought Chelsea were excellent. I think domestically that was the best performance of the season by a stretch. And bearing in mind they had the injuries as well, I just thought they were excellent. Again, for Liverpool, where do you start? I heard Stevie talking about it yesterday when on the Arne Slot interview that he was sort of clutching at straws, Arne Slot, about chances they created and they did this. He's got problems all over the park. He's got a superstar who's not playing well in Mo Salah, and he's not working very hard either defensively, and you saw some of the players getting frustrated with him. He's got a problem at right back because he's lost Alexander-Arnold's passing range and that dynamism. Okay, defensively he was always quite weak there, But he's lost that. He's brought in one of the best left-backs in the Premier League in Kerkez, who's just lost his confidence in his form, and I think is about to get dropped for Andy Roberts. I think he's going to have to bring Robertson back into the team. So the whole backline's not working right. The midfield's not working right. You've dropped your superstar again for one of the biggest games of the English domestic season away from home. You've benched him. And I know they chased Alexander Isak for it seemed weeks, if not months. And I know he cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he played him. And I'm not blaming Alexander Isak. Maybe he needs game time. But your best player, up until his stupid booking in the Carabao Cup, I think it was Hugo Ekitike. Not Alexander Isak. And you play your best players. And Ekitike was on great form and is on great form. And so some of these decisions from Arne Slot are baffling. From not this game, but starting Szoboszlai at right back in the Champions League, which he's done before, which he reneged on in this Chelsea game, because we talked about it in midweek. Square pegs and round holes is a difficult sell. So Arne Slot last year did a lot of things right. A lot. And yeah, they ran out of steam at the end of the season, but he did a lot of things right. And we touched on it primarily with Steve. He said every time he does something, it works. Whether it's a substitute coming off or a player coming off. The league table will tell you it's been a good start, but the eyes will tell you there's a lot of problems. A lot of problems. And he doesn't seem to, at this moment in time, to have the answer. And the midfield's a problem, the backline's a problem, Mo Salah's an issue, and what does he do with Isak and Ekitike? And he's got all these things to figure out because they are not playing well and haven't been for the bulk of the season. From the Community Shield, when Nathan and I were at it, and we watched the game and we watched the defence, and we said, OK, he's got that to work on, he's got that to work on, he's got that to work on. Partnerships all across the back four. Balance in the midfield. We are, 2.5 months into the new season or whatever it is, and he has got more problems now than he did on match day one.
I think he recognises that he has those problems. If you look at his substitutions, Endo coming late on, I think that's just to take a draw and let's get out to London as best we can. On the other side of that very coin, though, Maresca makes attacking substitutions late on, and they are rewarded for it. And that just kind of speaks to, I'm tempted to say the momentum of these two teams, but Chelsea, as Craig mentioned, decimated by injuries, have been lost the last couple of games themselves. Yet it was Maresca who was the one who was willing to roll the dice in going for all 3 points and rewarded for it. Arne Slot has got some figuring out to do here. And while in his press conference he's kind of making a point, and I think it's a pretty ridiculous statement to make when you start talking about the second half and how much better we were in the second half. Well, you're chasing the game at this point. You know, I thought Chelsea were deserving of their halftime lead. They, in the end, were deserving of their 3 points. And for you to just be clinging to, well, we were a little bit better in the second half, it speaks to the issues that you have. And whether it's Alexander Isak, who had a gilt-edged opportunity, gilt-edged header that he should have done better with, got a little bit lucky with the assist, if you ask me. Arne Slot has got some big decisions to make here. Around Alexander Isak, around Mo Salah. Florian Wirtz came off the bench and then all of a sudden announced himself to the game with wonderful effect. And yes, Liverpool were better in the second half. Can Arne Slot make those big decisions to get Liverpool right? Because whatever it is, it's, despite their position on the table, it's not clicking right now. And he needs to shake things up significantly.
All the guys that were performing really well from last year. I mean, you take Gravenberg, who was sensational last year. He looks a shadow of the player at the moment. You know, giving the ball away and, you know, he's just not in the right place at the right time and getting dragged out. And Alexis McAllister's another one. I've never seen him give the ball away as much as he has at times this season. And then this conundrum about how do we get Florian Wirtz into this team? How does he get him into the team to make them tick and get his confidence up? And get him to do the kind of things we know that he can do, and he did do in Germany for many a year as a youngster, which he still is, a young player. And I know, again, I go back to it. Ekitike has been your best front man. He's been scoring goals. He's been linking the play up. He's been dropping into good positions to drag defenders out and let others get in behind. Are we buckling to, and I suppose this is maybe slightly hypocritical, because if you're trying to get Florian Wirtz into the team, then why would you try and get Alexander Isak into the team? But, you know, they got two strikers, so they've got an option there. They haven't got two playmakers per se. And so I felt the Isak inclusion was, you know, he's the big money guy. You know, I've got to get him some game time. If I was Ekitike, I would not be happy. And I go back to the defence. I do feel, and it's unfortunate, but I do feel he's going to have to take Kerkez out of the heat. I think at the moment it's too hot for him. I think he's probably getting a bit of an ear bashing from Van Dijk, who's his sort of partner in there. And you know, Van Dijk's getting under pressure because Kerkez is getting in bad positions. And I think he's going to have to, for the short term anyway, go back and put the experience of Andy Robertson back into the side, just to try and get the basics right and stem the flow. So a lot of big decisions to make for Arne Slot. But what we know is, at this moment in time, if it continues the way it is for them, they're not going to put a run of results together. Not the way they're playing. Not positive results anyway.
Yeah, Nadim, as the boys are saying, a lot of big decisions for Arne Slot to make, but a lot of them surrounding some of the newer faces at Liverpool. But one tried and true pillar of strength for Liverpool has been Mo Salah, and I can't believe we're entertaining the idea now of should Arne Slot drop him if he's not really delivering like the Mo Salah we're used to seeing. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing to ponder, because I don't think many managers have had the bravery to be able to do it in times gone by because of his value to the team and the fact that, you know, with Salah, even if he's not on his day, he can still provide that moment that can make a difference. And I think if you see him coming off the bench, he'll probably look like it did with that last year with Jurgen Klopp, where the two were almost falling out at times. I remember in the back half of the season, him and Salah having a disagreement on the side of the pitch at West Ham, you know, and that doesn't bring out the best in Mo Salah. But it is strange to see him performing like this. I think you look at sort of impact that he's having within games at this moment in time, and he's getting into the right sort of areas, but the outcome's not the same, whether it's the cross, whether it's the finish. Some of the burst isn't there, and as Craig said, from a defensive standpoint, he probably needs more than ever to be sort of supporting the fullbacks over there in this instance, given how weak Liverpool appear to be in the transition at this moment in time. But yeah, for Slot, you know, you just can't see him taking him out, because you wonder, well, who else can play on that side? The answer is, you know, that's Salah's position. It's not going to be a Chiesa, it's not going to be an Ekitike, it's not going to be an Isak, it's not going to be a Wirtz, it's not going to be Curtis Jones or anybody like that. It's like the position is just his and his exclusively, almost like the left centre half position is Van Dijk's. So it is going to be really, really interesting for him in terms of trying to fix this problem, because I think at the start of the season, when they were winning the games late and so on, we knew the performances weren't perfect, but they were finding a way, and we wanted to champion that, because rightly so we should. But at the start of the season, there's also a question to be asked about, like, why aren't performances as good as they need to be? You know, you've had a pre-season, you've had time on the training pitch to get the team ready to go. You know, they didn't play at the Club World Cup, so they've had more time off as well. So yeah, some of those flaws that they had are now starting to come to fruition. And I think as every week passes that's like this, not only does it start to affect the Liverpool, say, team, I think it affects the opposition as well, because now they can see ways to go and attack that side. They know who's in form, they know who's doing something well and who's not. They know some of these tendencies. And I tell you what, you know, after having 3 defeats in a row, what you don't want is a game against Manchester United in 2 weeks' time. A United that will believe that they can get a result at Anfield. So the pressure's well and truly going to be on for Arne Slot. And I think he needs some top performances from some of these players. Otherwise, you know, could be a little mini crisis.
Believe that you can get a win at Anfield.
That might be exactly the game that Liverpool needs.
Oh, that might be exactly what Liverpool are hoping for. But do you drop Salah?
Not yet.
Okay.
Let me put it that way. It's not that I think that Mo Salah is undroppable, but he's proven over the years, and it's dangerous just to bank on somebody's history, but when you need a big goal, Mo Salah has been Liverpool's turn to for a number of seasons. Again, that doesn't really change his performances right now. And added to the point, I'm not sure who fills that void if you do leave him out. You know, as Nadim points out, that there's nobody in that squad that steps in on that right-hand side with similar effect. Because even when Mo Salah isn't scoring, his presence changes how defenses have to play, how defenders pair up one-on-one, how centre-halves cover. So I stick with him for now, just because I do not see another viable option.
Just quickly, even if they haven't got a natural right-sided player. Luis Diaz not there anymore, and Cody Gakpo, most of them want to play off the left-hand side. Even if you haven't got that player, if his form continues, not just his form, his lack of work rate defensively at times, not always, at times, and you saw Szoboszlai having a go at him yesterday, there was one or two other players that had a go at him. If they continue to creak and crack as a team defensively, you'll have to take him out the firing line, Mo Salah. You have to take him out of the team just to get somebody in that side that's going to do a job defensively, to try and stem this flow of losing goals and teams creating a bulk of chances against you, which most teams have in the Premier League this season, if we're being honest about it. And so there is a duty that he has, whether he's a superstar or not, to, when he's not performing at his best, going forward, and things are not happening for him, to make sure, whether it's Connor Bradley or Frimpong playing in the right-back side, that he's back there doing a job. And if he's doing neither of those, then he has to come out of the team. So Mo Salah has got some thinking to do in terms of, you know, my duty to this team is not just going that way. When things are going badly, he has a duty, which he has done before to great effect. But this year, you'll find him hovering around in the halfway line more often than not. And we call that cheating in the game. And so a lot of players do it. But that's a risk. And I don't think Liverpool, at this moment in time, the way they are set up, can afford to take that risk because they are too fragile defensively.
All right, well, Nottingham Forest there, one more defeat, and Ange Postecoglou with a world of worry. We'll see if he even lasts the international break. But Newcastle, the Magpies, they're definitely happy. And another former Magpie is very happy. Shaka, you taking this all day, every day. What do you think?
Absolutely. Listen, I thought, as Craig mentioned, Newcastle were better from beginning to end, deserving of their two-goal win. And in truth, it was pretty comfortable. Forest are struggling, you understand that, but kind of given how, I want to say slowly, Newcastle's season has started, even though it hasn't felt as bad as certainly the league table was showing before today. They needed this win, just to get a little bit of confidence behind them. They got it, it was comfortable, and now 2 weeks to rest on that. Hopefully they can build on it.
Well, I want to talk about that opening goal that we saw there in the highlights. Nedum Onuoha is still with us. Nedum, what did you make of it? Was it a foul on Morgan Gibbs-White?
No, I don't think so. I think Bruno Guimaraes gets the ball, and I think, if anything, for me, it's the story of Morgan Gibbs-White actually being able to look after the ball that little bit more. I think it comes from a position where Forest are in transition. And if you're going to be playing it to a forward and an attacker in that spot, you do need them to look after the ball. You know, you've been under pressure for so long, as Shaka was saying in that game. You just have to maintain it, try and win a foul. But ultimately, I think it was a good press from behind from Byrne and an even better press from the front from Guimaraes. And you can see he kicks the ball and then it goes on to Dan Byrne. So I'm okay with it. I think for Gibbs-White, he's probably going to look back and see that maybe he could have done better and maybe should have done better. But ultimately, I think Newcastle just adopted the press really well, and the reward was a great finish from Guimaraes as well.
I think Newcastle have played quite well this season. I agree. I don't think that's a foul. I think Bruno Guimaraes does a good job pressing the ball, and Gibbs-White just doesn't get himself in a very good position. Has a bad touch and loses it. Take into account, Shaka mentioned the league table, can he points to where they haven't really played that well. I think they've played. I think they've had a really good start to the season in terms of performance. Let's not forget they lost 2 late goals against 2 of the best teams, Liverpool and Arsenal. Those were very difficult for Newcastle to take because they were very competitive in those games. They had a big win in the Champions League as well. They gave Barca, although they've had their issues certainly today, they gave Barca a run for the money, particularly in the first 45 minutes at St James's Park, before Pedri and Frankie de Jong really took the game by the scruff of the neck. So, you know, there's some good signs for Newcastle. They're playing some good football. They've got a bit of pace in their time. The new signing scoring a few goals, Voltemada. So I think if I was Eddie Howe, I would be feeling relatively good about my start to the season, albeit they haven't picked up maybe the points that they've deserved.
Yeah, it's almost like they're just missing a little Alexander Isak there in the final third. Oh, well. Welcome into Extra Time. We've got the boys here. Our Nedum Onuoha has been waiting patiently on the other side of the world to answer some questions, and I have them right here. Are you ready?
Go on.
I mean, I would imagine the other side of the world is Australia.
Well, the other side of the pond, I wanted to say, which is
But
the
you went with
Atlantic,
world.
the Atlantic
You
Ocean.
just went with world.
I just
You
went with
went-
world. Nathan feels like a world away. If only he would visit us in Connecticut. All right, first
boy.
question. Who should be more concerned about their recent form, Liverpool or Barcelona? Craig?
I'm going with Liverpool while Craig's thinking.
Yeah, I'm still, no, it's because both.
Jack had to get in
you know,
front.
Yeah,
I've watched a lot of both. I would say Liverpool.
Okay.
I would say Liverpool. Yeah.
Because he's just got a lot more to fix, you think, than Barca?
Yeah, I mean, the Barca midfield generally has operated well. The front line has, even this season. It's really the back line and maybe the work rate, the closing down the pressing, which was a problem in this game against Sevilla. Whereas Liverpool, he's got problems with new signings, he's got problems with superstars, he's got problems with Mo Salah not performing, he's got full-backs who are not integrating well into this back line. He's got lots to think about before he even thinks about who's going to be his number 9, because, you know, Alexander Isak's, he was just going to come in and be the number 9, but Ekitike, he really threw his hat in the ring early in the season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, I think, a lot more thinking to do for Arne Slot.
Nathan, you going with Liverpool as well?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think more so in regards to those new signings having not necessarily hit the ground running apart from Ekitike. And you'd look as well, like which of the more established Liverpool players have been playing well this year? Well, it's not Salah. You know, for example, it's not Konate. It's not necessarily people in that midfield. So yes, I think that sort of dip in form is probably more alarming, especially for them to lose 3 games in a row. If they would have gone 3 games without a win, that's one thing. But to lose all 3, I think that's a bigger concern.
All right, well, we're going to stick with Nathan because the next question is for you. For Nathan, what do you think it will take for players to strike or speak up in an organized way about the match load?
So this might seem like a bit of an unpopular opinion amongst like groups of players, but in reality, you can never have enough players who can come together because they all have different perspectives. You know, there are a bunch of players, for example, who will play 38 league games in a season, but then there are a bunch of players who might play 60, 70. You probably need the weight of everybody coming together to be able to do it, but in reality, you never will get that because the ones who play the most football, like they very much are playing too much football. But the group of them, like they might be the bigger names, but it's not enough for them to realistically change the function of like, say some of the games that are played. You know, are you going to get rid of this tournament because there are 20 players who think it's too much? You know, because you're also thinking about 20, 30 football clubs at the same time who have their own interests as well, you know, financially in terms of getting these games on. So I don't think there's a case whereby the player power is really going to be that substantial because unfortunately the business of football is one whereby if a player pulls out, it's the next player up. You know, and there will be players who will be desperate to do it. And there are some players, and I found this out, you know, when I was lucky enough to speak with Gilberto Silva about, say, some football in Brazil, there are some clubs and players who are seeking more football. So to be able to have those people be on board the same way that people are saying we need less football is incredibly unlikely. So unfortunately, I think this is just the system that we're in, and I can't really see much changing, to be honest.
Shaka, you always occupy high positions in organizations that tend to address these type of issues. What do you think is going to take?
He got chucked off those positions.
Yeah.
But he still has some knowledge.
The only way it happens is through an organisation such as FIFA.
Yeah.
Because, as Miriam rightly points out, there are just so many different angles at this from a player perspective. And while the focus is on the workloads of the top players who play 60 or 70 games a season, including internationals, they're rewarded in kind. There are a number of them, even if you just take the Premier League alone, never mind that they're lower divisions, but there are a ton of players in the Premier League who, as Nathan points out, will only play 40 games, and that's if they aren't injured, 45 games if they go on cup runs, don't play international football, but aren't rewarded as such. So they are not going to strike for players at the top end who are making the 300 grand a week or whatever. They're not going to strike for their benefit, which is why you need organizations such as FIFA to kind of consolidate all those interests in representing the players as a whole.
All right, next question for Shaka. Shaka, thoughts on Sene Lamons?
I didn't see the game.
Shaka, you're not tuning into the big Manchester
There's
United?
a million games going on. I'm not watching
but this is Manchester
I'm not
United,
watching
Shaka.
Man U Sunderland.
Why not, Shaka?
I'll watch the
That's
highlights.
Nedum's former club.
Listen, that game played out exactly as I told you. Manchester United are going to beat Sunderland. I said it. I knew it. So I didn't need to watch it.
That's not guarantee anymore.
I call it. It happened. I didn't watch the game, so I can't pass any comment on Lemon's performance. I will say, as I said, even before he got into the team, my concern is how poor Manchester United are defensively. He's inexperienced. And playing behind that back four, inexperienced, it could be a little bit of a shell shock of an experience for him if he isn't careful. But from all that I read and understand from the game, it was pretty seamless for him. Great. They'll be tougher tests than Sunderland, I'm sure.
Craig, I know it's not your area of the park, but did he look better?
Liverpool to come. Liverpool to come, correct.
I think a work in progress. He had to get him into the team. Well, he didn't have to,
Somehow.
but Altai, you know, he actually made some good saves in the Brentford game. Maybe suspect for the third goal, and always suspect from these long throws and set pieces, which seem to be back in fashion now. You know, we've seen a bunch of long throws. We're even seeing the kickoffs now getting launched forward into the corner and teams trying to press. But yeah, I mean, they signed a goalkeeper, they needed a goalkeeper, they got him into the team. I suppose no game is a perfect scenario for Man United at the moment, but it was about as good as you're going to get, bearing in mind this Liverpool game's coming up where he's going to be tested a lot more.
Oh, man, can I avoid that Liverpool game? Jeez. Can I be off that week?
You're on a run. You're on a run.
A run of one game, Shaka. And every time United go on a run, it's like you turn a corner into a wall. I keep saying it, and Liverpool could be that wall. Sorry. Let me get to the next question. Who are your El Clasico favorites as of today? Nedum, let me start with you, considering both Real Madrid and Barcelona have shown that they have some vulnerabilities.
By the way, turn a corner and hit a wall is a great line, but I think I'm going to go for Real Madrid. I think given the form that Mbappe's in and the high line that Barcelona are sort of being exposed for, as we saw today, I think I'm going to have to lean towards them because Mbappe's been offside probably 1,000 times since he's been trying to play Barca, but I feel like this year might be a little bit different, so I'm going to lean towards them on this occasion.
And we still don't know if Lamine Yamal will be back in time.
Maybe back.
Yeah, I think you've got to look at Real Madrid at the moment and say, I would be licking my chops, even though they got hammered in the Madrid derby. You know, your Barcelona defensively over the last few weeks, particularly today, I mean, it was so bad, so bad.
The first one is where? Where's the first one?
In Madrid.
Is it Madrid? Yeah, Real Madrid.
End of October.
Pay mortgage on it.
26th of October on ESPN.
Pay mortgage on it, Alexis.
Put your mortgage. I don't have a mortgage. I rent, Shaka. But if you want to give me a down payment for a house, we'll take it.
Craig's mortgage on it.
Next question is for Shaka. Does Shaka miss driving his Maserati?
I do.
You do? What do you drive now?
Ford Fusion Hybrid.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, you can't beat that 40 miles to the gallon, let me tell you.
You're just a man of the people now, aren't you?
That's, you know,
he's a man of the people.
That's
you went from
how
being,
my life is.
You went from being East End of London, big time Charlie, swanning around.
Yeah.
I bet you had a bunch of gold chains on you as well.
No, I did not have any gold chains.
No,
Watch, a Rolex?
I was zooming around East London. It was great.
In your Maserati. And now you're zooming around Massachusetts and Connecticut in a Ford Fusion.
Yes, I'm concerned about the environment and all that.
I love that for you, Shaka.
How many miles has that thing got on it?
Right now, I've got about 290,000 miles on it.
290?
290?
Wow. And it's still going?
Still going.
Wow.
Love that. Shaka's a man of the environment and people. Humble.
Yeah.
All right. Next question's for Nedum. And Nedum, it was a question I asked you in the show. Are City becoming too Haaland dependent these days?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think there are other players who will chip in with their goals and Haaland will get his number. He always will. So yeah, I don't think they're too dependent at all. I think if they were really dependent on him for general play as well, I'd be more concerned. But if your number 9 happens to be in the right area more often than not and he's finishing well, I don't really consider that to be a problem. As I say, other players will get to probably between 5 and 10 goals throughout the season. They'll probably get to like 70, 80 goals for the year. Haaland might score 30. That's the best case scenario for the season. I wouldn't worry about dependency. I'd just be more concerned if they weren't scoring enough goals at all in general. So 15 goals is good for me. and it's good for them to look a bit more positive heading into the international break.
All right, and final question now. This one coming for Shaka.
Good.
Will FC Nasaf be in the power rankings next week because they're the top of the league in Uzbekistan right now?
I love me some Uzbekistan Premier League.
Your rankings were back last week, weren't
Yes.
they?
Yes.
How'd that go down?
Oh, like a treat.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Did you?
I said Karabakh was playing in Uzbekistan.
It's Kazakhstan, isn't it?
It's
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
Oh, Jesus.
What? Oh, wow. We all need geography lessons
Yeah, I can
here.
see I'm like you, Craig. It's one of those ants out there. I was a little geographically challenged.
We need to bring a geography teacher in. Shaka, would Hartford Athletic, after what we saw from them winning the Jägermeister Cup, will they make it?
It all
That's
depends.
from our Mark Donaldson.
It all depends on if we get an invite to the after party.
To the celebrations. Yes,
If we
Mark.
get an invite, they're in. No invite, no win.
No invite, no party. Well, that's usually
Simple
how
as
it
that.
goes. All right, well, that's it. That's all for Extra Time. Make sure to tune into the show
more
tomorrow.
questions. No more
Shaka,
questions.
When are you having more power rankings? Not tomorrow.
Thursday.
Oh, it's every Thursday.
Thursdays is power rankings.
Man. Well,
day.
you have to wait a couple more days for Shaka's power rankings, but Kay will be back with the boys tomorrow to talk
Or
about
maybe
plenty
Friday.
more.
I'm not on
Oh,
Thursday.
Shaka, come on,
Maybe
man.
Friday or Wednesday.